Before we get into this, I just wanted to say that this channel exists because of parents like you. And if you're finding these conversations helpful, subscribing really does make a difference. It helps us keep going and bringing voices into the community. So thank you for being here because it really does mean a lot. Enjoy the video. Welcome to Angelica, a homeschooling mom in South Africa. How long have you been homeschooling? How many children and what are their ages?
Thanks for having me. I have a different situation. I have a set of identical twin boys who are 11 years old and are in grade five. Um, they say having twins is hard. Let me tell you, homeschooling twins is even harder. They are, so we basically started our journey in about 2 years ago. We just decided that mainstream schools didn't seem to suit our family, our lifestyle, the wants and needs. So we made a decision to take these two little people and homeschool them, and we haven't looked back since.
And
Amazing.
you just did you make the decision, or was it a run up to?
You know what it was? It was there was a lot of red flags. There were, but mom guilt. I think we all have that mom guilt situation with us, and mom guilt. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? Are they just exaggerating when they come home and tell me these things are happening at school? You know, um, there was a lot of red flags, and the red flags kept on popping up, and I kept on addressing them with the school, and it drove me crazy because every week you're on the phone with the teacher, the principal, the head of department, whoever, and the answers that they kept giving me was, but you must understand. And I don't like it when somebody says that to me because, yes, I'm a very understanding person. I'm a very compassionate person. I'm a very empathetic person. But when it comes to your kids, you're very different. Um, Red flags popped up, and the more I addressed the teacher and the more I tried to speak to the teacher and the more she just kind of wishy-washied her way around what my concerns were, the more I obviously had my hair up. And it came to a point where one day I was actually on Facebook and I saw a post about homeschooling. And I've never really been one to say, oh, I'm going to homeschool my kids from day one. I always believed would send them to mainstream, would do what you do to do the cookie cutter way. And I saw this post and I actually mentioned it to my husband. And I said to him, you know what would happen if we took the boys out of school? And he was like, well, he also saw the problems. And I phoned up this homeschooling center and I spoke to the teacher there, just purely for knowledge, not because I was actively looking, but purely for knowledge. And when you connect with somebody, that it's just like almost a soul connection. And within 2 weeks, I had them out of the mainstream school and into a homeschooling center, and I haven't looked back since.
Amazing.
And what is just for UK listeners? What is a homeschooling centre?
So basically, a homeschooling center it's like a school. Um, it's got the same concept. It's got the classroom. It's got the teacher. The teacher is more of a tutor. So you are still providing the curriculum. You're still on the curriculum that you're providing, the homeschooling curriculum, but you have a tutor who basically does the teaching for you. So she had a class. I think there were 12 kids from different grades, from grade 4 all the way until grade 7, I think, or 8, if I'm not mistaken. And she would just help them, but in a way where it was more of help than you're doing it wrong. You've got to do it this way. The kids, I would go and visit the school. I did a few talks at the school, and you would go there, and the environment that everybody's smiling, everybody's playing. There's nobody sitting in the corner by themselves. There's nobody. Everybody's included. Everybody is part of the whole buy-in of what the value of the school is. So maybe school is not the right term, but it's a center where they base really your curriculum that you are doing with your children, which here in South Africa you have different options.
Yeah.
They take that curriculum and they basically teach your kids for you.
Right.
And the boys were with them, with the teacher for a year. And then due to my husband's work, we were transferred to a different part of the country. So we had to unfortunately leave that school, and then I became the sole teacher. So I now homeschool them myself. So we don't have the tutor anymore. We've gone that route and we loved it. But now I do it by myself with them at home.
Wow,
Okay.
two different ways. And
Yeah, different.
how are you finding that yourself, being in this new
You know what?
situation?
It's a huge challenge. I take my hats off to teachers, anybody who's in the education department, education industry. I take my hat off to them
Mm.
because it can't be easy. But I found that in an environment where my kids aren't pressured into a situation where they are uncomfortable in, they tend to thrive. So there's none of this, you must do this, you must do that. If you're hungry, you're hungry. If you're thirsty, you're thirsty. If you need to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? There's none of this strict sit at your desk for 7 hours a day with a half an hour lunch. And, that's what you do. So I found from my side that it was a huge change because I'd always been a working mom. I still work part-time, but I do online work now. So I come from working mom, being in a corporate world, that kind of situation, to homeschooling 2 11-year-olds. It was quite a different change for me. Mentally, I had to change my whole mindset. There's none of this. You start at 8 and you finish at 9, and you do this and you do that. We have a slow start. We start our mornings, and you just see a whole different aspect between what the kids were versus what they are now.
Mm.
When it comes to pressure, we've just gone through test week where they had to do tests all week to mark where they are with their studies. And I know from experience with my two that the quickest way to offset them is to do test week. Do any kind of exam, mention an assignment, mention anything where they have to now prove that they listen, that they behave, that they do this, they do that. But with the homeschooling, I found that it was a much more relaxed environment. We did our tests outside under the trees,
Yeah.
where it
Oh,
was nice and
lovely.
sunny, and we relaxed, and the dogs are playing and we chilled. They know all the answers. The kids
Mm.
know the information. They retain the information. But to sit in a little desk that's uncomfortable and have 30 other students around you, having to have 60 minutes to complete a test, it freaks somebody out. It freaks
Yeah,
most people out.
stressful. Yeah.
So it's very stressful to them, and it takes a huge knock to their emotional well-being. I mean,
Mm.
my kids would come home from school, and I'm not even exaggerating, we wouldn't even know which mood they were in. And they would melt down to a point where I would just scratch out their homework and tell, write to the teacher, not doing homework today. Because we couldn't get into a situation where we could sit and think again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're homeschooling.
Mm.
We take 2 hours a day, whether it be in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, whenever we all feel that we are in the right frame of mind, and we do our work, we get it over and done with. We sit and we do our tests, which are nice and relaxed, and there's no meltdowns, there's no screaming, there's no fighting, I mean, there is nothing worse for a mom to see her child that stressed out over a silly question like write out a number. You
Mm.
know what I mean? It's
Mm.
heartbreaking as a
Yeah.
parent. So the whole change for me was also different because I had to come out of my corporate ways. I had to come out of my strict ways. And I think it's opened up not only for them, but for myself as well. We've just changed, and we've evolved into just better versions of ourselves, if I can say it that way.
Yeah. Well, like, as you
Yeah,
say,
it sounds like you.
probably more relaxed and living in the here and now rather than
Very
thinking
much
the
so.
next thing. And
Very much so. And you know what? Every day is a lesson. It's not about a book. We're not opening up books. Sometimes we spend a week and we don't even open up a book. You know, I know what their lesson plans are because the curriculum sends it to us. So we have an idea of what the week entails, or the whole month entails. And I'll take that week and I'll say, okay, no pressure. We're going to learn about fractions today. Okay, so how can we put fractions into real life? And we go from there. Why are we now sitting and looking at a textbook? Because I can promise you by the time we've closed that textbook, not only them, but myself as well, we've forgotten what that's all about. You know what I mean? I wasn't good at maths. So it's a different lifestyle, and a lot of people knock it. I know a lot of people do knock it. And I'm going to admit that I was one of those people. From the beginning, I said, never, I'm not going to homeschool my kids. Never, you know, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. This is how they're going to be raised. But once you're a parent and you're in the depth of sitting with your child and that frustration of you don't know which way is up or down, you have to relook at the whole situation. You have to relook at what exactly is it that we want to achieve? What exactly is we want our children to achieve? I don't want my children to turn 18, 19, 20, go into their first job interview and tank because they're so stressed out about a possibility of, you know, of now having to prove who and what they are. Their confidence has risen. They are confident. They can speak to children. They can speak to adults. They can walk into a shop and they can ask for things. They can relate to people. They aren't just focused on socializing with other 11-year-olds. You know what I mean? So the confidence is now different as well for them. So it's a whole thing. It's not just one thing that is changed.
Sounds a lot more grounded and regulated, you know.
Very
So,
much so.
what's the biggest myth about homeschooling that your lived experience has completely destroyed?
Oh my goodness, there are so many, but I think the biggest thing for me was, they say homeschooling is easier than traditional schooling. The myth, and maybe it is, you just sit at home and you do a textbook or two, but there's actually a lot more to it than just that. You have to plan, you have to think, you have to see the bigger picture of it. You have to adapt to what you have and what you don't have. You know, it's very easy to be sent to a school and said, you need ABC, and you need to send it to the school the next day. And then the parents run off and buy whatever these they need, and that gets sent to the school. You're homeschooling. You make do with what's around, what you have. You know, I think we adapt that the actual curriculum changes to what the child is. So, for example, as I said, I have twins. Identical, if they stood next to each other, bar the one being maybe a centimeter taller, you can't tell the difference. But two different personalities. The one's more artistic, more creative, more outgoing. The other one's more introverted. One but more into maths, understands maths quicker. The other one understands English better. You know what I mean? So I'm now adjusting to teaching these two different children, where in a mainstream school, you're all taught as one. You know, that is how I'm taught. This is what you learn. Where with these two, I can adapt to every day, whatever we're doing. We can adapt the curriculum. We can change. And today, you know what? If today we're struggling with something, we move on. We don't have to worry about we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to do this. It's all about adjusting to who and what we are as people. And more so, for me, and I've always said this from when they were small children, you do what works for your family dynamic. What works for me might not work for your family. What works for your family won't work for my family. So definitely, I would say homeschooling is easier than the traditional. It's not as easy. In the end of the day, school is school. You're still learning the same subject matter. You're still learning pluses and minuses and multiplication and all of that. But it's the way you approach it that that changes the whole dynamic and the whole mindset of both the kids and you.
Would you say that you've
Definitely.
used your intuition with meeting their different learning styles and their different interests and things, or have you sort of researched and used knowledge
I've
that you found?
I've been very much into intuition with both of them. I've from small, I've brought them up based on them as individuals. I never read books to how parenting books. I never read twin books. When we found out we were having twins, it was suddenly a different ball game. I never read that. I just followed my gut. I followed what they taught me to follow, if I can say it that way. Because believe it or not, we learn every day from children.
Mm.
They're very intellectual. You've just got to open your mind. They're resilient. They are powerful little human beings that are growing in this world. And if we just step back and took away our own ego and let them be, you'd see a whole different style of schooling, of children, of university. I mean, we have to think about things like that still. But if we just step back and looked at an individual like an actual individual and not one of many, I think this world will be a different place. And that's how I want to raise the boys.
Mm. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think, there's this idea that's been created, hasn't there, where the adult has to control everything that's going on. And actually, we've spoken to a lot of home educating, homeschooling parents, and the ones that seem to be very successful are the ones where the child is leading on their learning. They know exactly the interests that they want to look into. They know what they
100%.
want to learn. They know what they're good at, perhaps what they're not so good at. And it's flipping that relationship a little bit, isn't it? That
It's
actually an adult doesn't
100%.
have to control it all.
That the thing for me is, I think the big change came for me is when COVID happened. I saw a different side of the world when COVID happened.
Mm.
We don't need to be stuck in an office. You know what I mean? So why are we, as millennial parents who's gone through a COVID change of world, trying to teach Gen Alpha, Gen Z, our ways? We have to adapt. We have to change to them, because teaching a Gen Z or a Gen Alpha a millennial way is not going to get them anywhere. They need to know the Gen Z way. They need to know how they're going to adapt into the future, not how we adapted into the past.
So what advice would you give to parents that are setting out then?
Find a community, find somebody to talk to. There are many, many Facebook pages that are homeschool based, homeschool something. They're not all going to work for you. They're not all going to be the answer. You need to find a community or someone or something that understands your wants and needs for your kids, and help and let them guide you to do what you want to do. You don't need somebody telling you what to do. When I first started joining the Facebook groups, I thought, okay, you know what? I'm now doing this. I'm homeschooling these kids. They're by myself. I'm by my own. I'm doing it. I joined all these Facebook groups because this is now the answer. All these experiences there. The moms are there. They know what's going on. And I found that a lot of the parents, not all, but a lot of the parents are so busy trying to survive that the advice they give you doesn't really help you much, if that makes sense. They, again, doing what works for their family, but their family situation is completely different. It's the same as I always say to somebody, I will teach you how to raise your singleton child when you teach me how to raise my twin children. You don't have twins. You don't have experience. You can't teach me. I can't teach you how to raise a singleton. I don't know how to raise a singleton. You know what I mean? I don't know what to do with one. If one of them goes off with dad and does things and I have one, I'm like, well, now what? You know what I mean? So this is two of you all the time. So you have to both be there. But yeah, so the advice I can give you is research and find your tribe. Find your tribe that's going to guide you to be the better parent for your children, not for somebody else's children, not for what you believe is best for homeschooling, but what guides you for what you believe yourself is best for your children. I think that's the most important thing. It's you and your children. You have to work in your family dynamic, and that has to work for you.
Yeah, and there's no right or wrong way, as you say. You just have to take the snippets of things that you think, oh yeah, that's good, and use it the way that you want to use it.
There is no right and wrong. You know, there's no right way to do something and a wrong way to do something. You know, if you give a child a math problem and I answer it one way and you answer it another way, and our workings are totally different, but we come to the same answer, it's still an answer. We just think differently. You know, and just because we think differently doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean that you're right. It's programmed into us as humans to think and to think and not be little robots being told what to do, when to do it, how to do it. You know, here in South Africa, I don't know how many moms you've spoken to, but in your public schools, your mainstream schools, you're looking at 30 to 35 kids in a classroom. You're just one of a number.
Yeah.
You're not
you're not an individual.
You're not an individual. I'm not going to treat you and open your mouth. You are one of a number that I've got to make sure passes. And if you don't pass, you fail. And you know what? You fail, too bad. You've got to do it again. There's no, but why did you fail? No, you just got to redo it again. That's it. There's a reason things happen. There's a reason kids act the way they act. There's a reason children act out. There's a reason children have meltdowns. And if we just stood back and took 5 minutes to find that reason, we wouldn't be screaming and shouting. You know, we wouldn't be called into the principal's office every second day.
Yeah, that's the thing with homeschooling. It's actually taking the moment to listen to your kids. And it's exactly what these schools aren't doing. I mean, I can't speak for all of the schools, but there's quite a theme there. And it also is impossible, like you said, if there's so many pupils, there's only one teacher, there's only so much that they can actually do.
And you know what, it's not the teacher's fault.
No.
And like that for me is the big thing, is it's not the teacher's fault, and it's not the principal's fault. Unfortunately, it's a system. The system is not
outdated.
Successful. The system's not working. It's not working, and it's not working. And unfortunately, and it's again, for some families, homeschooling is not an option because mom can't be at home. Mom has to work. Mom and dad both have to work. You know, so mainstream is the way, and kids are thrown into mainstream, and they are told to do your best. And the pressure of that, of being told to do your best, is ridiculous, because your best is not good enough. You have to get A's, you have to get B's, you can't get a C. You know what, if your child's a C aggregate, if that's what your child gets, that's what your child gets. There's strength in other things. You know, maybe he's getting a C in maths, but he's getting an A in English. Maybe he's going to be a writer one day. Yes, maybe it's not going to be your $1 million CEO job, but we need writers, because we need authors. We need authors to write books. We need books to learn. We need books to grow our knowledge. So there's space for everybody in this world. But in a mainstream situation, we're so focused on, you have to do school, you have to go to university, you have to do this, you have to do this. By the age of this, you have to do that. Homeschooling is very much more, yes, you do need to achieve. And yes, you do have to follow your hopes and dreams. But we're doing it in a more gentle way. And we're doing it in a way where the anxiety of it is taken away.
There's too much focus on academics, isn't there? Rather than you as a person as a whole. As you say, if you are creative and you enjoy writing or reading, it isn't always seen as just as important as doing maths or
100%. because you have that expectation that you need to be, it's you need to be the head chef, but you still need other chefs too. You
Yeah.
need your potato peeler. You don't have a potato peeler, who's going to peel your head chef's potatoes? You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. This world is made up of so many different beings, of so many different things that needs to make it spin. Everybody needs to work on their own way to make this world spin. Just because I'm not achieving an A in mainstream school doesn't mean I haven't got a place in this world.
No,
No.
All that, as you say, all that you failed.
I think it's also interesting is that when you speak of school, there's that common theme of you have to do this, you have to do that. And I think that is honestly, that kind of tone is really ruining these kids.
I think we put too much pressure on have to. When I was small, yes, I had to do school, but I was a millennial child, because in the millennials, that's what we had to do. I was speaking to friends the other day, and they've just had a baby, and it's a Gen Alpha generation, and this is the first child that I've met that was born into the AI generation.
Yeah.
That child will never know a life without AI.
No.
Never. How does that make you feel? You know what I mean? Now I'm sitting in a situation where I have to teach my kids how to sit and write with a pencil, because we're not allowed writing with pens at a certain age at schools. I mean, it's ridiculous. If my kid wants to write with a pen, let him write with a pen. How's that going to change? Because in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, we're not even going to be using pens and pencils anymore.
No, definitely
We're going to be using computers. We're going to be using voice. We're going to be using AI. So I think the emphasis is pushed too much on you have to do this because we did it that way, as opposed to let's find out how we can do it, because the new world, we don't know what's coming. And we have to adapt. And having children who are in homeschool and tend to adapt easier because there's none of this pressure on them, they're going to adapt into the new generations easier. They're going to take on the world easier because there's none of this. But it used to be done this way. It had to be done that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, they're developing those soft skills as well, aren't they? Like you said, flexibility, being adaptable, having to talk to somebody that they haven't met before, 100%. All those different skills that actually
I wasn't taught soft skills at school.
No.
I learned soft skills when I started going into the work environment.
Yeah.
When my manager would say to me, you can't do it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So soft skills weren't taught to me at school.
No.
Now, to teach soft skills is, you go onto any coaching website where you're going to get some kind of coach. They're going to coach you on soft skills.
Yeah.
But this is stuff you should be doing on one-on-one.
Yeah.
You you should be doing this at home. You should be doing this when you walk into the shop and when you're applying for a business loan. You need soft skills.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why are these things not taught?
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm going and I'm ordering at a restaurant, I need soft skills. I'm sitting down and I'm being a decent human being. Now tell me, how does that work? If I don't have the soft skills, I'm rude to the waiter. Now the waiter's upset. Maybe somebody spits in my food. I don't know.
Going back to your, you said the homeschooling centre lady, I guess it was on the phone.
Yes.
I wonder if you hadn't have clicked with her, do you think that your decision could have been different?
Definitely. I think so, definitely. She gave me that courage for that final step to say, it's okay to be different, because her mindset, her whole view around it was everything I wanted, but was too scared to say it was okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wanted them to be in an environment where they were chilled, where we didn't focus on homework. Sometimes my kids would come home from school and they would be doing homework until 7, 8 o'clock at night.
Wow.
That's grade threes.
Yeah.
That's a grade three. What's up, an 8-year-old?
Yeah.
That's not fair on them. And then I'm told, but they have to do sports as well, and they have to do this and they have to do that. But they're so busy doing homework, they haven't got time for sports.
Yeah.
So what am I doing? Now I'm saying, okay, so now we're going to do homework and not do sports, but now we're not going to do sports, we're going to do homework. But let's rather do sports, let's not do homework. So, now you're making me choose, and that's not fair. Now we do, if they want to go and play golf, they go play golf. Work can wait. Or on the driving range, hit some balls. Let's talk while we're hitting some balls. Everything that they do while they are enjoying themselves, they will retain.
Yeah.
Because it's fun. Me standing up there and lecturing on a whiteboard is not fun.
Yeah.
I don't want to listen to it. They don't want to listen to it. You know what I mean?
Well, your message is quite clear, as you say, believe in yourself, I think, and know your little humans. Because as a mum, as you said, as a mum or a dad, you know, being a parent, you know your children better than anybody.
You know them.
You have to go with that instinct, and
you know, even though you doubt yourself, and let's be honest, we all doubt ourselves. You know, some days we would have a bad day from homeschooling, and homeschooling has bad days. Don't get me wrong; it's not all sunshine and roses all the time. We have bad days.
Life.
That's life. Because you know what? I'll wake up in a bad mood. Now I've got to try and teach two small people. They're also little people. They also have emotions. They're going through hormone changes. They're going through growth. They're also maybe in a bad mood. So now instead of forcing them to go and sit with 30 other children, they are going, you know what, guys, let's take a day out. Tomorrow will be a better day. And you know what? It works because I've proven it with them. If they are struggling, and I can see it, their concentration's not there, and they're just not list for it. They don't want to do it. Now I'm forcing them to do it. You have to sit. You have to do that task. You have to do it. It only upsets them more. It frustrates them. It frustrates me. You know what I mean? So it's not always sunshine and roses, and it's not always fun and games. But it allows us the space, both mentally and physically, to take a step back and go, okay, wait, what is going on? Not just pushing through another day that I have to pass, I have to do this, I have to do this. We allow ourselves some self-care to step back and go, okay, something's not right. What is wrong? We're now in touch with our emotions. We're in touch with what's going on. We're learning. We're growing. And you know what? Maybe I didn't learn maths today, but I learned how to turn around and go, I'm not okay. Now, please show me somebody that can turn around and go, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's hard. You don't get those kind of people around easily.
No.
And that's something that you want them to turn around and go, because again, it's a whole new generation that's coming up. We can't make the past generations influence what's going on. The past generation didn't even have computers. Now we have AI. You know what I mean? Like, how does that work?
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Angelica. It was lovely to chat
Thanks
to
for having
you.
me.
Give us a thumbs up if you've made it this far. We want to ask you, what was the actual moment that made you decide to homeschool? Was it a phone call like Angelica, or was it something else? Let us know.